Right, so this is going to be another movie review. This one's called Escape from LA, 1996. This is going to be another Karate Man recommendation. I'm giving it 5 out of 5 stars. I love this flick. Movie poster just says Snake is back, and it's got Snake Plissken with a bunch of fire and surfboard. Catch killer wave, dude, says Henry Fonda. Let's go to the beach, dude. Escape from LA, stylized on screen as John Carpenter's Escape from LA, is a 1996 U.S. post-apocalyptic action film. We like dystopian movies on this channel. Karate Man's avatar thingy on YouTube used to be Snake Plissken. It's co-written, co-scored, and directed by John Carpenter. John Carpenter does it all, just like on Halloween. He does the background music. He does the writing, and he does the direction. It's also co-written and produced by Deborah Hill and Kurt Russell, with Russell also starring as Snake Plissken, a sequel to Escape from New York, 1981. One of the greatest dystopian movies of all time. One of my all-time favorites. In fact, my auntie rented a bootleg VHS tape. Her neighbor was running like a video store of all these blank tapes that they had recorded movies off of HBO, and this was one of them, Escape from New York. So she rented it. She paid money for a blank VHS HBO version of Escape from New York, 1981, and we watched it on her VHS player when I was like 10 years old. I saw a rated R movie when I was 10 years old, and it was cool. Escape from LA co-stars Steve Buscemi, who was in The Island. You got Stacy Keach, the great Stacy Keach. We love Stacy Keach on this channel. We love Bruce Campbell. He looks unrecognizable as the Surgeon General. He's wearing all this makeup. And then we got Peter Fonda as the catch a killer wave dude, and Pam Grier with hairy armpits. What's that all about? She lifts her armpit to show armpit hair. Her voice is like transsexual. And then the rest of the movie, she has no armpit hair. Like disappeared. Or maybe it's one of those patched on armpit hair things. I don't know what's going on with that. Escape from LA failed to meet the studio's expectations at the box office, and it received polarized reaction from critics. The film later found a strong cult following. Yeah, we like strong cult following. I noticed the beginning of the movie had cheap CGI effects. Really, really low, cheap looking CGI effects to show the background of the island of Los Angeles, I guess. It looked cheap, man. It looked like one of those movies on IMDb that have very few ratings in there. They get like 1.5 out of 10 stars or something. I'll check the IMDb rating for this later. But let me go through the plot, because this is going to take me a while. All right. In 2000, a massive earthquake strikes the city of Los Angeles, cutting it off from the mainland as the San Fernando Valley floods, declaring that God is punishing Los Angeles for its sins. A theocratic presidential candidate wins election to a lifetime term of office. Here we have They Live themes. And Snake Plissken says, these rules are starting to annoy me. He orders the United States Capitol relocated from Washington, D.C. to his hometown of Lynchburg, Virginia, and he enacts a series of strict morality laws, just like Dr. Taylor Marshall. Violators are given a choice between loss of U.S. citizenship and permanent deportation to the new Los Angeles island, or repentance and death by electrocution. Usually when you repent, you get this burst of energy like your soul is clean, but these people, they get death by electrocution. Escape from the island is made impossible due to a containment wall erected around the mainland shore and heavy federal police presence monitoring the area. We do not like federal police. I actually got a ticket from a federal police officer one time for crashing through their gate. I was so tired working 4 jobs that I just drove right past the gate in the company van when I was working for Good Eggs. The guy gave me like a federal warning or something. I don't know what he's trying to do, but Barney Fife over there in Mountain View gave me a federal warning. All right. By 2013, the U.S. had developed a super weapon known as Sword of Damocles, a satellite system capable of targeting electronic devices anywhere in the world and rendering them useless. The president intends to use it to dominate the world by destroying hostile nations' ability to function. Karate Man's in the chat room. It must be 3 p.m. West Coast time. Snake Plissken is one of the coolest and most badass characters of all time. Yeah, I know. That's why you had it as your YouTube avatar when I first saw you on my channel. Call me Snake. Call me Plissken. Call me Snake. He can't make up his mind. I love Escape from New York and Escape from LA. Both one of my all-time favorites. I agree, dystopian, both post-apocalyptic, cult action classic. I always wish they did a 3rd movie, hell, even a 4. Yeah, that would have been good. And what is all this talk about him being in Cleveland? I missed that part. They should do a Escape from Cleveland prequel. Right, Karate Man? Right, the president intends to use the Sword of Damocles to dominate the world by destroying hostile nations' ability to function. His daughter, Utopia, who is in The People Under the Stairs, steals the remote control. She played Alice, right? The inspiration for Alice in Chains was The People Under the Stairs. All right. His daughter, Utopia, steals the remote control for the system, and she escapes to Los Angeles Island in order to deliver it to Cuervo Jones, a Peruvian Shining Path revolutionary. Shining Path is officially known as the Communist Party of Peru. Cuervo has marshaled an invasion force of third world nations, and he's planning to attack the U.S. Kind of unlikely that Shining Path would attack the U.S., but I guess John Carpenter is trying to perpetuate this left versus right false dichotomy. So that's it. The Peruvian Shining Path versus the theocratic President for Life, played by Cliff Robertson. All right. Facing deportation for a series of crimes, Snake Plissken is offered a chance to earn a pardon. Sounds familiar? Sounds like Escape from New York beam. Anyways, his chance to earn a pardon by traveling to the island and recovering the remote, a task that a previous rescue team failed to accomplish. They sent out the Keystone Cops, and nothing happened. So they're sending out Snake Plissken to force his compliance. The president has one of his officers infect Snake with a virus that will kill him within 10 hours. And the president promises that he will receive the cure upon completing the mission. It's all a big lie. Presidents lie, especially U.S. presidents. All right, the president is not concerned with Utopia's safety, regarding her as a traitor. He wants her dead. He wants his daughter dead. She's a traitor. She's like Judas. Snake is issued equipment, and he is sent to Los Angeles in one-man submarine. As he explores the island, he meets Map to the Stars Eddie. This guy. This is a guy from the island, a swindler who sells interactive tours and one of Cuervo's associates. He keeps changing sides, this Map to the Stars Eddie guy. Anyway, along the way, Snake is helped by Pipeline, a surfing enthusiast, played by Henry Fonda. Catch Killer Wave, dude. Taslima, a woman deported for her Muslim faith. And Hershey Las Palmas, formerly Carjack Malone, a trans woman and past criminal associate of Snake's, played by Pam Grier with hairy armpits. Why does a trans woman have to have hairy armpits? I've only seen that in a couple of instances. Anyway, Eddie captures Snake, and Eddie turns him over to Cuervo, who uses a sword of Damocles to shut down Lynchburg in retaliation for Snake's presence. Cuervo threatens to inflict the same fate on the rest of the U.S. unless his demands are met. Snake escapes, and he teams up with Hershey and her soldiers. Or is it Hershey and his soldiers? He's got a deep voice. I think they dubbed Pam Grier's voice to make it sound like a man. The group travels by glider to the invasion staging area at the Happy Kingdom in Anaheim. During a fight against Cuervo's troops, Snake takes the remote, and Eddie alters the route of one of his tours to match it. Snake, Eddie, Utopia, Hershey, and a group of Hershey soldiers, including James Lew. James Lew is in this. Uncredited, of course. They all escape the island in a helicopter. Eddie shoots Cuervo, who fires a rocket launcher, and he hits the helicopter before dying. Hershey and her men are incinerated. Eddie jumps clear at liftoff. Snake and Utopia do the same over the mainland and leave the helicopter to crash when Snake alerts the president to their approach. This one had a budget of $50 million and a box office of $25.5 million. It was a huge box office flop, this thing, but it did attract subsequent cult following. Running time, 101 minutes. Release date, August 9th, 1996. Distributed by Paramount Pictures. And at the crash site, the president and his officers find that both Snake and Utopia are carrying remotes, and they take the one held by Utopia, slipped into her pocket without her noticing, incorrectly thinking that Snake has switched them. As Utopia is taken to the electric chair, Snake learns that the virus infecting him only causes a severe case of influenza that subdues within hours. I told you it was a lie. U.S. presidents always lie. The president tries to use Utopia's remote to neutralize an invasion force threatening Florida, but it only plays a recorded introduction to one of Eddie's tours. That was pretty funny. He's got this big press conference, U.S. president, and he says, "I'm gonna blow up Cuba, or I'm gonna blow up Peru or something." And he presses a button and it plays one of Eddie tours. That was great. Furious, the president orders his officers to kill Snake on the spot, but he proves to be only a hologram projected from a miniature camera that had been issued to him. So they used a hologram trick when they first imprisoned Snake and bribed him to go get the black box. Anyways, Mr. Karate Man says, "I still own them on DVD, even a badass figure of Snake, great cast, action scenes, badass music, especially the open music, which is the same from the first but different locations, characters, everything you got, and an underrated badass action sequel." Yeah, we like John Carpenter's Halloween music. We like Escape from New York, John Carpenter music. We like Escape from LA, John Carpenter music. We like all that stuff. Sounds like clock DVA. Industrial music. That's what it sounds like, clock DVA. Anyways, the surfing scene is badass, despite the visual effects don't hold up. Still deteriorate my enjoyment of it. I mean, still don't deteriorate my enjoyment of it. We like the low budget special effects, even though the budget was $50 million. They used this cheap CGI graphics in the beginning. It looked like one of those 1.2 rated movies on IMDb. Anyway, furious, the president orders his officers to kill Snake on the spot, but he proves to be only a hologram projected from a miniature camera that had been issued to him. Disgusted at the world's never-ending class warfare, he programs the real remote and he triggers every satellite in the Sword of Damocles system, deactivating all technology on Earth, saving Utopia as the power fails just before she can be electrocuted. That's pretty much the end of the movie right there. Big political overtones in this one. Of course, because it has John Carpenter as the director. Escape from LA was in development for over 10 years. In 1987, screenwriter Coleman Luck was commissioned to write a screenplay for the film, with Dino De Laurentiis' company producing, which Carpenter later described as being too light, too campy. Eventually, Carpenter and Kurt Russell met together to write with their longtime collaborator, Deborah Hill. Carpenter insists that Russell's persistence allowed the film to be made, since Snake Plissken was a character he loved and he wanted to play again. Carpenter credited that same enthusiasm with motivating Russell's work on the script, declaring, "I used his passion to do the movie to get him to write more." I thought the script was pretty decent, and yeah, this movie's weird. It's got music from Tool, White Zombie, Butthole Surfers. I didn't even know that. I gotta put them in the description. Okay, we've got Ministry, Deftones. Yeah. A lot of 90s bands in here. The basketball of death scene is another awesome scene. Snake was the only one to ever survive that game. Kept launching the mid-court ball. I don't know how he was able to be. I don't know how Snake Plissken was able to be a basketball superstar, but that was a new plot twist in this one. And then they start chanting, "Snake, snake, snake." And then the massive earthquake hits right when the bad guy, Cuervo, the Shining Path dude, is about to shoot Snake, and there's this big earthquake. Oh, I forgot Robert Carradine. I forgot him. Dang it, I knew I forgot somebody. So we'll add Robert Carradine and Butthole Surfers now. Robert Carradine is in it for like 1 minute. That's John. That's who's the other Carradine? It's his brother, the Kung Fu guy. That's Kung Fu guy's brother, Robert Carradine. I think both Robert and John were in Kung Fu TV show. If I'm not mistaken, even the father-son, Robert and John, were together in one of the episodes, I think. All right. So we got Butthole Surfers. Forgot to mention them. I think the Butthole Surfers were originally going to be named like Fred Astaire's A-hole or something. All right, so we got Robert Carradine and Butthole Surfers. Oh, yeah. David Carradine, that's the name that I couldn't remember. Keith Carradine played the young Kung Fu dude in the opening credits of Kung Fu. Carpenter has described Escape from LA as both fun to make and requiring months of nights of work. Carpenter would later recall that the theme park scene shot at night on a Universal backlot resulted in a noise complaint from Rick Dees, which forced them to cease using live ammunition. CG supervisor David Jones has expressed his distaste for the resulting effects used in the battle, which he described as a little iffy. I think the effects in the beginning showing the island of Los Angeles were a little iffy. That didn't bother me too much. The battle scene, although uncredited, Tony Hawk has claimed that he and fellow professional skateboarder Chris Miller worked as stunt doubles for Peter Fonda and Kurt Russell during the surfing scene. Several scenes were shot in Carson, including the Sunset Boulevard and freeway sequences. The Sunset Boulevard scene was filmed in a landfill where production staff constructed over 120 structures to create a shanty town. To create the impression of a crowded post-apocalyptic freeway, 250 broken cars were sourced from a junkyard in Ventura. We talked about the soundtrack. The film score has been released twice, the first on both CD and cassette by Milan Records in 1996, and again as an expanded CD release by specially labeled La La Land Records in 2014 that featured pieces of music that were recorded for but ultimately cut from the film. I suggest getting the Halloween score on CD. Escape from LA was initially released on DVD in the United States on December 15th, 1998, and it was later reissued on September 26, 2017. The film was released on Blu-ray by Paramount on May 4th, 2010 and 2020. Shout Factory released a 4K restoration on Blu-ray in 2022. The 4K restoration was released on 4K Blu-ray, also known as Ultra HD Blu-ray. Upon its release, an English audio encoding error was noted by several reviewers, prompting Paramount to correct the issue in unreleased discs. And Paramount launched a replacement program for initial purchasers. Escape from LA domestically grossed $25,477,365 from its $50 million budget. Ouch. About as much as its predecessor, but a little more than half its significantly higher budget. They should have put more money into the CGI effects. But we like cheap CGI effects on this channel. Hey, One Eye, I'm talking to you, man. That was Robert Carradine. Yeah, I didn't recognize him because he was bald. And I didn't recognize Bruce Campbell because he had all this makeup on. He looked like a freak. He looked like synthetic flesh from Dr. X. Anyways, the film received mixed reviews, and it has a 53% approval rating from Rotten Tomatoes based on 57 reviews, with an average score of 5.6 out of 10. I'm guessing that's roughly the IMDb rating. But I'll let you know in a second. Escape from LA gets 5.7 out of 10 on IMDb, pretty close. The site's consensus reads, Escape from LA has its moments, although it certainly suffers in comparison to the cult classic that preceded it. I thought it was great. I have no complaints. Roger Ebert gave the film 3.5 stars of a possible 4 and wrote that the movie felt it was an attempt to satirize the genre while exploiting it. Escape from LA has such manic energy, such a weird cockeyed vision. Yeah, I'll agree with that. Weird cockeyed vision. That's a good description. That it may work on some moviegoers as satire and on others as the real thing. Todd McCarthy of Variety wrote, a cartoonish, cheesy, and surprisingly campy apocalyptic actioner John Carpenter's Escape from LA is spiked with a number of funny and anarchic ideas, but doesn't begin to pull them together into a coherent whole. Owen Gleiberman of Entertainment Weekly rated it C+ and wrote, Carpenter never was a filmmaker his cult claimed him to be, but in Escape from LA, he at least has the instinct to keep his hero moving like some leather biker Candide. Stephen Holden of the New York Times wrote that the film's in-jokes go a long way toward keeping afloat a hopelessly choppy adventure spoof that doesn't even try to match the ghoulish surrealism of its forerunner. Ghoulish surrealism. Yeah, that's a good description of Escape from New York. Ghoulish surrealism. Kevin Thomas of the Los Angeles Times wrote, with such humor and high adventure, John Carpenter's Escape from LA brilliantly imagines a Dante-esque vision of the City of Angels. Peter Stack of the San Francisco Chronicle rated it 3 out of 4 stars and called it dark, percursive, and perversely fun. Esther Iverem of the Washington Post wrote that the film tries but fails to be an action hero flick or even a parody one. Mark Savalov of the Austin Chronicle rated it 3 out of 5 stars, and he wrote loud, rollicking, and alternatively ultra-violent and hilarious. Escape from LA is a snake redux. And what more do you need, really? It didn't have the baseball bat with the nails on it, but it did have Isaac Hayes in there. It didn't have Ox Baker. I guess he was dead in 1996. It's Ox Baker. Nigel Floyd of Time Out of London wrote, after 15 years of computer-generated effects, apocalyptic sci-fi, and Arnie movies with flippant kiss-off lines, the sequel feels hackneyed and pointless. Kim Newman of Empire rated it 2 out of 5 stars, and she wrote, apart from a few good characters, this is really not up to scratch in most departments, especially the ludicrous plot. It is hard to imagine Shiny Path going after some Dr. Taylor Marshall dude. But this is entertainment, people. This is not meant to be taken seriously. We watch it to be entertained. In a 2013 retrospective, Alan Zilberman of The Atlantic called Snake Plissken's a pro-nostalgia anti-hero, disgusted by the world around him. I like Snake Plissken's attitude. This one, he's like, to hell with all of you. I hate you. You all suck. A snake asked the president, I bet, what does it do? Then the president says, only in need to know. Snake says, evidently, I don't need to know. So F you, I'm going to Hollywood. Yeah, I like his... Snake's got an attitude problem in this one. He's pissed and proud, shouting insults 20 times loud. The Snake Plissken. If he can't, and he says, I like the ending where he says, I told you I was coming back to get you. He's like, he always keeps his promise, like some other movie that I just saw. I can't remember. Anyways, while contrasting the film's then futuristic plot elements against modern day reality, Zilberman writes that the film's ending is more profound today, as Plissken would be annoyed by our fascination with technology, citing the example of two friends who ignore each other while transfixed with their smartphones. John Carpenter later reflected, Escape from LA is better than the first movie, 10 times better. It's got more to it. It's more mature. It's got a lot more to it. I think some people didn't like it because they felt it was a remake, not a sequel. I suppose it's the old question of whether you like Rio Bravo or El Dorado better. They're essentially the same movie. They both had their strengths and weaknesses. I don't know. You never know why a movie's going to make it or not. People didn't want to see Escape that time, but they really didn't want to see The Thing. You just wait. You got to give me a little while. People will say, you know, what's wrong with me? He reiterated his statement in another interview. It is a better movie. I didn't do what the first one did for some reason. Maybe it was too dark, too nihilistic. I don't know. They didn't dig it as much as the first one. I did okay, but it wasn't a hit. You didn't do okay. You lost $25 million. After about the cult following, Carpenter said, I'm just delighted that it's gaining that popularity. I really dig Escape from LA, and I'll always have. Good for you, John Carpenter. We love your work here on this channel. I've got They Live on my combined list. We're going to revisit They Live. I think I watched bits and pieces of it in between naps on my couch in Santa Clara during my first marriage when it was on cable. They live. But yeah, that was a long time ago. I talked in great length to Father Mike about my first marriage, but I could have gone for hours, like I do on my YouTube videos. Anyways, a sequel of the movie called Escape from Earth was meant to be produced after Escape from LA, but the underperformance of the latter changed the plans. According to John Carpenter, Escape from Earth would have picked up with Snake Plissken right after the ending of Escape from LA, which saw him activating a superweapon known as the Sword of Damocles. Escape from Earth was kind of Snake Plissken in a space capsule flying interstellar. So there be a lot of special effects in it, which I never care about much, but that's what it would look like. Yeah, you didn't care too much about the special effects in Escape from LA either. We can tell that they look like some project from City College of San Francisco. Marvel Comics released the one-shot The Adventures of Snake Plissken in January 1996. There's a collector's item for you, Karate Man. The Marvel Comics Adventures of Snake Plissken. The story takes place sometime between Escape from New York and his famous Cleveland escape mentioned in Escape from LA. Snake has robbed Atlanta's Centers for Disease Control, the corrupt CDC, of some engineering metaviruses and is looking for buyers in Chicago. What a great plot. Finding himself in a deal that's really a setup, he makes his getaway and he exacts revenge on the buyer for ratting him out to the United States Police Force. This sounds like an even better version of the plots from Escape from New York and John Carpenter's Escape from LA. This sounds like an even better storyline. In the meantime, a government lab has built a robot called ATACS, Autonomous Tracking and Combat System, that can catch criminals by imprinting their personalities upon its program in order to predict and anticipate a specific criminal's every move. This is like mind control stuff. The robot's first test subject is Snake. After a brief battle, ATACS copies Snake to the point of fully becoming his personality. Now recognizing the government as the enemy, ATACS sides with Snake. Snake punches the machine and he destroys it, reasoning, I don't need the competition. This is a great comic book. I've got to get this comic book. The Adventures of Snake Plissken, January 1997. Stacy Keach's character, Malloy, keeps calling Snake Hotshot. Yeah, I like that too. I like the Stacy Keach character. He's like shouting at the present, telling him, no, you will not do that. That was cool. Escape from LA actually predicted what LA would be in the future, believe it or not. Yeah. It's pretty accurate. That's what LA looks like now. That's what San Francisco Tenderloin District looks like now. An Escape from LA video game was announced from Sega Saturn, Sony PlayStation, Panasonic M2, and PC in 1996, but was later canceled. So there you have it. That's everything you wanted to know about Escape from LA, including the comic book and the canceled video game, the proposed sequel that Karate Man didn't know about, Escape from Earth. I thought it would be Escape from Cleveland. It's actually Escape from Earth. I still want to see the Escape from Cleveland prequel. Um, that's a tough decision. They're two different movies. He's asking me which was my favorite, Escape from New York or Escape from LA. That's a tough one. I think Escape from New York is more dark and brutal and violent than Escape from LA. But I don't know. You got Pam Grier playing a transsexual with hairy armpits. It's got that weird factor, that unbelievability of just suspending believability for the sake of entertainment in this one. So I think I would go with Escape from LA just because it's got so many great actors in it. Snake Plissken is giving the finger to everybody in this one. He's pissed. He doesn't like anybody. He wants to shut down the entire planet because he's sick of people using their cell phones or something. I don't know. I don't know what his hang up is in this, but he's just sick and tired of everything. He wants to shut everything down, start from scratch 500 years ago. The soundtrack album is described as alternative metal and industrial rock, whatever that means. It's, I guess they're talking about lamestream, industrial, alternative music from the 1990s. The motorcycle chase scene is another great scene, and Mexican gang members are riding horses, Snake nailing them with the shotgun. Yeah. Yeah, that's all great stuff. I think I like the sequel better, actually. I'm with John Carpenter on this one. The first movie was just dark and bleak and depressing. This one has some great one-liners. Good for a laugh or two from Kurt Russell. Anyways, cool flick. Highly recommended. Check it out. Thanks for the recommendation, Karate Man. I'm going to do Karate Kid next. Laters.